It's lit.
Welcome to another episode of It's Lit Boston. We are your host, Sam Show, host of Mike, with our guest today, Michelle Wu.
Is it at City Council at large?
City Council at large.
Okay. Why are they at large? First of all, what does that mean?
I'm one of there are two kinds of city councils in Boston, and everyone in Boston has 5 representatives on the council. Your district councilor, and there are 9 of those, so 9 councilors that have basically 2 or 3 neighborhoods each, and then 4 of us that are the whole city at large.
Oh, wow.
Wow, that's
That's
crazy.
a lot. That's a lot of responsibility.
Before we get to all of that, though, how's everybody's week? Let's start with the guests. How was your week, Michelle?
It's been okay, it's exhausting. I got 2 boys at home, and my mom and my husband, and the online learning is just, it's a lot.
Yeah. F that.
You know,
What? I got kids too, but
I feel like y'all can relate.
I'm doing homeschooling. I'm doing
Sitting in the
homeschooling.
back.
Yeah, I'm doing homeschooling. So that's whenever I want to teach them. I don't have to sit through those Zoom meetings, nothing like that.
How old are your sons, Michelle?
3 and 5.
3 and 5. Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's a tough. Oh, you got
Yeah.
boys too. That's right.
Yeah, so it's the age where BPS was short. Boston Public Schools was short of Chromebooks, right? Every student's supposed to get one. They
seen you posted
ran out,
that.
et cetera, et
Yeah,
cetera.
yeah.
So he's, I have mine. I need it for some stuff, but he has it during the day. And no matter how many times I wash his hands during the day, he gives it back, and it's always like the keys are missing. Everything's sticky. The entire keyboard is like sticky.
Yeah.
She's shooting shots right at me right now, man. We like that. That's legit what it is to have kids, especially 3 and 5. I got a 7-year-old. No, she's not 7 no more. Whoa.
Wow.
She's 10, 7-year-old. Wow. I got a 10-year-old, 7-year-old, and my son is 4. And yeah, it's definitely a handful. How was your week, Sam?
I'm alive, man. I'm glad. No.
Mm-hmm.
I dealt with nieces this weekend, so I see
There you
what
go.
y'all are going through.
You see what's going on.
It's a whole lot of, wait, don't touch that. No, stop running. No, stand here. No, don't touch people. Leave them alone. Say hello. Say thank you.
What about you, Mikey?
See, my nephew, it'd be the opposite. I just be like, yo, just do whatever.
Mikey be like this. Go start the car.
Mikey, he's that uncle, though. He ain't tripping on nothing. It's like, you want to do it?
So what we did was, my nephew's birthday was in April. All right, he turned 4 in April, but obviously he couldn't do anything. So what my sister did was we threw a small little thing for him here with some of his friends, and it was a Halloween thing because the kids can't do Halloween either. So the kids, there was about 5 kids. They came with their costumes, and we had. Yeah, I don't know what that is. I hear it in the back too.
What is that?
I don't know.
Well, stop now.
Oh, it's the bathroom. Close that door.
Yeah.
It's all like, what's the history?
You can hear it on the mic, right? I'm like, yo, is there a snake in here?
I was like, yeah.
What's going on?
Casper the Friendly Ghost is in the bathroom. I
Oh,
guess.
my
But
goodness, bro.
so all the kids had their masks on, and we had hand sanitizer and disinfectant spray. But the kids got to come in their costumes. They got to paint pumpkins. Happy birthday.
Wait.
So it was good.
Y'all got dressed up?
The kids got dressed
Oh,
up.
I'm about to say,
homie.
what did you dress up
Yeah,
as?
like what the hell? It's not Halloween
Chill,
yet, though.
chill. Because the kids aren't doing trick-or-treating.
Oh,
So-
you did it that early?
Bro, the kids can't go. So it was,
You could have done the weekend before.
bro, I'm not the one that planned this, all right?
I'm just trying to
Why you
understand.
hating on the kids, man?
I'm not hating on the kids. You're right. It's all about the kids. You're
Don't
right.
worry. For our Halloween episode, I got an idea picked
I'll
out.
dress up. You can dress up.
I got an
Nah, I'm
idea
good.
picked out.
Y'all dressing up?
Nah,
I ain't
good.
never dressed up
I'll
before.
put a mask on.
There you go. I'm dressing up. Dressing up.
My joint's gonna be hella creative though.
All right. Okay.
But yeah, but back to the original point. 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds just running amok all over the place.
Yeah.
Yep.
My niece is a
Just,
5.
yeah,
and 4.
yeah. So
Yeah, man.
it was a good week though.
Same
Can't
here.
complain.
Same here. I'm back to normal. Almost there. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, well, let her know why you
I
back to
mean, back
normal.
to
Oh, I had a vasectomy last week. So, different person out here now. You know what I mean? We out here now.
Okay, we're going all in this.
Yeah. We are here today.
Yeah, we're vulnerable.
Last week he was limping around, taking it easy.
Yeah.
Today I opened the door. He jogged in. He ran in here, did a
here.
backflip.
Yeah.
I'm ready to go,
Yep.
man. But why did you announce that you were running for mayor next year?
Okay, that was a fast switch.
Slash switch. Yeah, that's all we do.
It happened just that quick.
Just quickly. We're gonna go back and forth all
Yeah,
day.
I love it. So I've been on the city council for 7 years now. And I'm someone who never ever thought when I was 4 or 5 years old growing up running around, I never all the way through college thought that I would run for office.
Okay.
Like if you had found me with my group of friends at the end of college and said, who's going to be least likely to be, city council, whatever it is one day, we all would have said me. I just like, it's not, anyway, we won't get into that. I'm the daughter of immigrants and just never like thought that I could be in those spaces, never was in any of those spaces. And it wasn't until my mom got sick. So my mom's been struggling with mental illness pretty seriously for about 12 years now. I raised my 2 sisters at home. My mom lives with me now still, so she's doing a lot better. But it was really that experience of seeing just how much government leaves people behind when you need it that got me interested in running for council in the first place. And after 7 years on the council, I just see Boston has everything we need to actually be there for people. And yet with all that's happened over this last period, right? Companies moving in, development, all this growth. And it's gotten harder and harder for people to stay.
As somebody who works, I'm a carpenter. So all the development, we love. It's great. We're at work. You know what I'm saying? I feel bad. I'm like, yo, I know y'all are getting kicked out.
Sucks to be y'all.
And I helped build it.
Yeah. Like, what do you want me to do here? I got a family to feed too. So how would you balance that?
Yeah. It's so, okay. I think so. It's actually good that we started the conversation where we did, because at the end of the day, I think if you put a mom in charge of things will go a little different. It's all about rules of the house. Okay, dad's mom,
There you go.
I get it.
He's like, give me my respect.
But listen, like if you have little kids and if you treat every decision that you're going to make as a negotiation with them, like, can I have more candy? Can I stay up 1 more hour? Can I watch another TV show? It doesn't work. It stresses out everyone. There's no plan. There's no sense of where we're going. And I think sometimes it feels like the city's the same way, right? Every project that happens, 1 more negotiation. Well, can I just build a little higher? Can I do it here? Can I have 1 more luxury condo instead of affordable housing? It's like, we have to set some rules. What do we need? Where are we going as a city? Who do we want to live here? And then make sure that that's clear and people just follow the rules.
Well, following the rules is one thing, but
I'm saying,
you said earlier that nobody in your crew of friends in college would have expected you to be here. Who were you in college?
Wait. First of all, what college did you go to?
Harvard.
No, we expect you. Come on now.
talk your
Come
shit.
on.
Talk your shit.
No, let me tell you.
Nah, I expect you to be mayor or something at Harvard.
Come on.
Now, if you was working at like the local corner store, I'd be like, all right, come on.
Yeah, that's different.
Come
Yeah,
on.
So, okay, I'll tell you. I grew up we moved around a couple times, but mostly in the Chicago area, Midwest, etc. And my parents, every time my dad's job got a little more pay, they would move us to a different school district that they could, find a little bit better schools. And so I lived in this little bubble. My parents were really clear. They never talked about politics. They didn't talk about it wasn't like, oh, read the newspaper, find out what's happening. And I realized later on it was on purpose, right? It's not that they didn't know it's not that they didn't care what was happening. They were trying to shield us from politics because it had such a bad name in my family history, right? My parents were immigrants. Their parents were immigrants also, different generations fleeing civil war. And for them, politics was famine. Politics was corruption and fear. And so I remember my first week of college, I was out here in Boston, my first time away from family, really. And we were in the dining hall with all the other freshman students
at Harvard.
At Harvard.
Okay.
And and everyone's going around and just introducing themselves, and someone says like, okay, say your name, where you came from and whether you're a Democrat or Republican. And I'm like, so everyone's going around, everybody's like clearly has been talking about politics their whole life, like knows. And I realized I have no idea at that point. I didn't know the difference between a Democrat or Republican, like sitting there in that dining hall. I had a vague sense of what my dad used to say about not wanting to pay taxes, this and that. But I was that shielded from understanding how it impacts your life. And it really wasn't until my mom got sick and I got thrown in of, now I got to fight to get my sisters into the right schools. Now I got to fight to get my mom her health care and open a business, and government was standing in the way of a lot of it. And it wasn't there when we needed that help.
Did you have the conversation with your parents? Like, why did you shield me from all of this? Because I would be more prepared if you had spoken about this to me. Because I go through that with my parents. I'm an immigrant too.
Yeah.
I'm Nigerian. So I came from over here. And a lot of things, like you said, none of that was spoke about in the house. So it wasn't until I started paying my own bills and started realizing, oh shit.
Yeah.
I got to do all of this.
Yeah.
Never spoke about it. So did you ever have that conversation with your parents?
Sorta. I mean, my mom, she's kind of up or down and still struggles with her mental health a lot. And with my dad, it was kind of, I've had a couple different conversations where I was like, well, you guys raised us to just keep our heads down, work hard, do the next thing and the next thing, and try to, work, make some money and support your family. What about, what you love to do or how you can make a difference in the world? And it was really, they gave up everything to come here. That they didn't have time to think about, what made them happy a lot of times. It was their family. It was putting food on the table. And I think, my kids are growing up in a really different situation now, coming to a lot of meetings and this and that. But I still struggle with, like, how am I going to make sure that they remember where they came from, right? How hard their grandparents had to work, how much their great grandparents had to suffer so that they could have this life that they have. I think it's, politics is, you can't ignore it. You can't put yourself in a bubble and feel like you can just take care of your own family when we're all going through the same thing that we need to fix together. So that's kind of where I am now.
I have one question for you, right? Doing everything that you're doing right now, what values do you try to instill in your children?
Yeah. There are 3 values that I kind of live by, myself, and it's a little different talking about them, but the ones that if I know that 10 years, however many years later, I'm out of politics, I want to be okay with the person that I was this whole time in politics, right? And that means every night when I go to bed, I want to feel like I've been holding up authenticity, humility, and gratitude. Right? If I feel like I know who I am, I know why I'm doing this, and I'm grateful for the opportunities I have. For my kids, it's kind of the same thing. I want them to feel like they're part of a community, and I want them to feel like the most important thing is to leave where you are, whether that's just, in a classroom or in a neighborhood or wherever, a little bit better. Like, remember that you are in this connected to a whole lot of other people.
How do you do that exactly? Especially now with the pandemic. And I don't know how you grew up, but here, I grew up in Mission Hill over here in Roxbury. We played outside a lot. Kids don't really play outside without their parents there watching them anymore.
Yeah.
So how would you build that community?
Yeah. So one thing that I have said, I wrote something about this a little while ago. There's a lot of problems in the world right now. A lot of it, I think, comes down to the fact that we don't have a lot of trust in our lives anymore, right? People are more and more lonely than ever before. We have, if you compare to like 1 or 2 generations ago, we don't have as many close friends as our parents, grandparents did, because we're spending all our time working nonstop, right? There's just not as much free time. And we, it's easy when you have phone and social media, you're kind of following people who think similar things as you and this and that. And so I think if there was one thing we could do at the city of Boston to save our democracy, it would be to make sure that we could pay for a block party on every single block. Oh, shit. Right? So you get together with people that you have a lot in common with, but maybe you're not even talking to them so much anymore. A lot of times, especially our generation, I feel like not everyone knows the names of their neighbors even who live on either side of them these days.
I know
right?
2 neighbors on the whole street.
Yeah.
And it's just like our whole life, the way that we think about how we spend our time has changed, right? You can get anything on Netflix or online or whatever. But we need to have more block parties, because block parties are how you start those lists of like, hey, I need something. Who can, my kids are, I got to run out. Can someone watch my kids for 5 minutes? Or
you want us to trust like that?
1 step at a time.
Yeah, that's a different type of trust.
That's a different type of trust. Like,
people don't let their kids into the door.
Yeah, no. Well, they never did. You answered the door when you were younger?
Yes.
Nah. I couldn't answer the door.
You know what my mother would say? Tell them I'm not home.
Oh, okay. All right. I know those. Okay. All right. Cool. Okay.
We had to check first. We had to look at the people. Because legit, if it was Jehovah's Witness, it was shh, be quiet.
Wow.
No, that's true. It's true.
I appreciate y'all.
If they had the
I
white,
saw that ring doorbell outside.
You see how I do. I check the phone. I'm like, yeah, I'm not even answering that. I'm good.
I'm going to keep it a whole stack with y'all. Jehovah's Witnesses, the kids, appreciate y'all not opening the door.
Bet. I
Okay.
figured.
Really?
I figured.
Yeah, I remember. I grew up Jehovah's Witness.
Dang.
So
The
I
kids
love
got to
it.
stand there while they try
I
to
gotta
talk.
force myself to actually talk to you about something I don't really care about. But my dad got me over here, so I'm in a suit. Take the Bible, take the brochure, please.
Oh, I'm not even opening the door. I'm talking to you through the door.
That's fine. I
Okay,
like that. That's
yeah.
cool too, because then I can make it quick and get out of there.
The one time we opened the door, that's how the missionaries came in, and I became Mormon.
Oh, for real?
I was like, yeah, keep the door closed. Yeah.
Stop playing.
Yeah, the missionaries came to the door. Open the door. Hey, how you doing?
If you haven't noticed, we
And they got my
call
moms.
him Host Mike.
Yeah.
Because as you can see, they walk through the door and all of a sudden he's a Mormon.
Yo,
Like-
I was 8. My mother let him in. But I was just saying, that's why normally we book sleep.
That's crazy.
Don't open the door.
Did you happen to watch the Ice Cube situation right now that's going on?
I've been following a little bit here and there.
You watched that?
Yeah.
You watched
Little
that? A little bit. About you.
There was
About
a bunch of stuff about
bunch of
Ice
stuff.
Cube. So let's
Okay.
be a little bit more specific.
What is he doing? Just advising the Trump?
He had
administration?
he had a plan, which I'm not really sure. I don't know if anybody's read it. I haven't read it. I haven't seen it.
Black America?
A Black America plan, right? And it came out that he had spoken to the Trump administration over the Democratic Party. And everybody came on him about that. Like, why would you go talk to Trump? And his thing is like, why am I not going to talk to Trump when we're bipartisan? I don't know what that actually means. So
You know
if
what
you
I
can go into that, I don't know what happened. But everybody's coming at him because obviously he's talking to Trump's peoples and not Biden.
But you're supposed to, though. You're supposed to speak with whoever you can negotiate with.
That's what it is to me. It's a business
I
transaction.
was under the impression that he brought it to both groups.
He did.
did.
He did. So that's what's happening.
Yeah, I mean it's hard because even in government all the time you're under you have these choices of, do I try to negotiate and get a little out of the situation, but ultimately I'm maybe going to be like publicly associated with something that I don't want, but this was the only way to try to make some progress? Or do you say, this is a clear line, I'm not crossing it, and this is what we need to aim for? And it's hard. And I think what I was reading a little bit of what Ice Cube was saying is that it's not just that he is with both sides or whatever. It's that he feels like no side has been listening
Yeah.
for a
1,000.
long time,
Facts.
long time.
1,000.
And so, I think sometimes, with the Asian American community, we get this a lot too of like, there's not people like, are folks Democrats? Are they Republicans? And it's like, no one's really talking to us, right? And I think for Black Americans, it's been 400 years of not only being left out, but specifically excluded systemically through policy intentionally. What we see in Boston, like just take Boston as an example, right? The disparities in terms of median net worth of like $8 for a Black family in Boston, $250,000 for a white family in Boston.
Time out. What?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
All right, come on. I'm learning today. Give me a
Bro.
second.
So okay, yeah, let's break this down. So the Boston Federal Reserve put out a report where they looked at all different communities' median net worth, right? So if you had to put add up everything you own, your house value, your bank accounts, all of that, what's the average or the median, right? And so for a white family, it was $247,500. For a Black family, it was $8, right? Like,
How did
period.
it get 250 to 8?
So the biggest difference is home ownership.
Yep.
Okay.
That a lot of times, when you own your home, that is, you're paying mortgage.
That's
but
your equity.
That's
Yep.
your equity
Yep.
that you build up, and it's there if you need it in emergency, right? You could sell that house and get that chunk of cash out, or take a loan out against it. And communities of color, Black Bostonians, Latinx Bostonians, I think it was also I believe it was Dominican families in Boston. It was even less than that, right? So when you're talking about the difference, a lot of it is home ownership. A lot of it is business opportunities too,
Okay.
right? That's why it's so important to point out. I've been fighting a fight for a long time about how much the city of Boston spends to different businesses, particularly what we call MWBEs, minority and women business enterprises. 2018, the city spent $664 million, completely our decision as a city government, right? Things like buying pens and paper for city buildings, or the money to pay someone to cut the grass in the public parks. Out of that, 0.65% went to businesses owned by people of color. And let's say, okay, maybe there's something, but we're investing in the city. No, Boston-based businesses only got about 1% of those contracts too. So it's like, we're putting money out there. If we're serious about trying to address generational exclusion, generational policies that have led to segregation and these disparities across our city. I mean, I won't even get into the health disparities, the education disparities. We have to use everything that we have, and city government could be doing a lot more.
Let me ask you a question, right? Why isn't the city doing anything about methadone mile over there by Mass Ave? That's my biggest question to anybody who's in charge right now.
Yeah. The short answer is it's hard, and there are other communities that have been more organized and louder about other issues, right? I think there's no excuse for it. But what you know, if once you've been in for a while, is that it is very easy when you get in there just to do the next thing that there's a big article about or that people are calling you about. And it's not that, it's actually a lot, I don't want to use the word easy. It's a lot more possible than people think it is to get things done in city government. If you have a problem and you call someone in city government every week, every single week, I guarantee you they will find a way to fix it because it is that direct. But the problem is we always just move on to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And we don't have this vision of these are our top things that we're going to take care of. And that means having someone in the city structure who's thinking about that all the time, constantly, even when it's not in the press, even when you're not getting calls about it.
So we don't have anything in plans for methadone mile at all.
So the
doesn't
city
seem like
has,
it.
they have what's called Mass and Cast 2.0, but what the plan is mostly a public works, public safety plan. It means they are trying to get as fast as possible, picking up needles when people report them. And, there's a lot of city workers working really hard to get that done where, you go in your 311 app, you enter the location of where you saw some needles. They're coming out pretty quickly to take care of that. But we're never going to fix the problem just by chasing around where people are putting in reports of things. We have to take care of the people who are there. The businesses are suffering in the area. I just met with the hotel owner there. A bunch of those businesses they're at the breaking point. They can't even survive with the pandemic and everything else. The residents, and then of course the patients who are seeking treatment there. We need a citywide plan when it comes to that.
I have another. You got to go.
No, go ahead,
I got
please.
One more question, right? I always hear about everybody saying, like what Black people going through for 400 years. I'm always curious, like, what does the Asian community seek?
Just in general, right now.
Because I never understand. Like I always hear everybody talking about Black problems, Dominicans, Puerto
We never
Ricans.
hear about y'all.
I never hear anything about not even just y'all, just other people. I just always hear everybody, Black people, you guys have been suffering. All right, we know what we're suffering from, but what do you guys be asking for?
So can I be really real in the space?
Of course.
This has been a really tough conversation, especially in the last couple of months in our community, because at the beginning of the pandemic, there was a lot coming at us, right? President Trump kept calling it the Chinese virus and this and that. And before it was even in the US, everyone knew it was kind of coming out of China and thought, I think a lot of people, listening to the racist president, whatever, that, let's just put it this way. I remember getting on the train in like January, February, before COVID was anywhere in the US. I would get on the train and I would feel people like moving away, right? It was like you see someone, okay, maybe they're virus, whatever. Our Chinatown businesses started to really suffer early on, hate crimes, etc. And
In Chinatown?
in Chinatown.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was wild.
And I heard from, there were kids who there were some conversations, young Asian American kids saying that they were getting bullied in school because other kids' parents had told them that it was because of the Asians and the Chinese people that, this virus was here and this and that. So there was this moment in our community of like looking around and saying, we don't usually speak up about stuff like this, right? The way that my parents raised me, just like I was saying before, you keep your head down, you try to stay out of trouble and
mind your business.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You just take care of yourself and people might be shouting at you down the street and whatever, you do your own thing. But in that moment when there was so much coming at everyone, people started to say, okay, we've suffered, like we've had enough. We need to stick up for ourselves. We need to speak out, started to get organized. And then this was like early in the pandemic. And then the murder of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and a rise, just like anger and activism around Black Lives Matter, making sure that we are, as a country, addressing these issues. And it was tough in the API community. I had a lot of, especially older generation folks saying, well, what about us was kind of the sentiment, like,
Before you move forward, you said the API. What does that stand for?
Asian American Pacific Islander.
Okay.
Yeah, so not just East Asian, but also like...
You engulf the whole thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So and we had to have a lot of conversations where, for example, folks who immigrated here, the older generation would say, I've been the target of just as much racism, why, now no one's talking about us anymore. No one's thinking about what we were going through in this moment anymore. Chinatown's still suffering, whatever. And we had to go back and really have that historical conversation of like, the reason why you could even immigrate here was because Black activists opened the door, stood up for civil rights, and kept that door open. And we've been pitted against each other as communities on purpose, time and again.
We're all immigrants.
Yeah.
But that's why I was paying attention to what you were saying. Instead of just saying Black activists, why not just say activists?
Yeah.
All activists have helped that.
Because I think that, sometimes, and maybe this is me just like thinking too many like layers into it. But one thing I have heard, even in Boston during this, is that there's different intensity when your community has been systemically for 400 years, like didn't make the choice to immigrate to this country, right? And since then, generation after generation, specifically excluded. And I'll speak up for my community. At any time, the Chinese Exclusion Act was the first immigration act targeting a specific group of people, saying you are not allowed to come here anymore. And it was on the books for a very, very long time. But I think in this moment, it's also important for allies and others to center the Black community and to recognize that there's a different experience when it comes to policing, right? There's a different experience when it comes to a lot of these. And it's not to say that, I think your first question of what does the AAPI community want is a really hard one because the community is so different, right? All different languages, all different backgrounds, all different, economic situations. And I think we haven't really gotten together on the same scale to say, this is our clear agenda either. And that's something that we need to do.
Which is something that like I always have to talk about with people, because a lot of people always say, this person is courting the Black vote or they're courting the Black agenda. And I have to remind them that there is no Black agenda. You have Black people that range a whole spectrum of social economical situations. So there's no one key that fits that lock. You know what I mean? That's why I kind of, every time someone starts going there, I kind of start checking out.
But that's the only reason why I ask questions for like clarity, because I always see, I don't always see, but what I've been paying attention to is like people pandering to the Black vote. But I'm always like, but what do you want? What do your people want? Because I don't want people just to cater to just us and then we just vote for them. But then when you get in there, it's like, oh, you ain't really doing none of that shit for us.
And that's for people who don't vote, like myself. That's one of my biggest issues is like, I understand that your intentions are pure and all of that, but once you get behind that door and you see the red tape, how does that make you feel? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like people get in there with good intentions, and then when they get in there, they can't do nothing.
Can't get nothing done.
That's why I think it's important to have people in there who know what they're going to do, who are saying it from the beginning, who've demonstrated a bit of being able to get that done too.
That's still saying the same thing to me.
I hear you. I hear you.
You know what I'm saying? Because like obviously you want to get it done, but once you get in there and you see all the red tape and the files that have to get, the road you have to get to get things passed. Why do they just stop and just be like, you know what? Let's take care of whatever we can, and then
you gotta
hopefully they forget.
You gotta abide by the rules until
I get that, but you say you're gonna do this down a third, and you want my vote.
Yeah.
So if you say you're gonna do this down a third, I gotta take you at your word, right? And then if you get in there, you don't do it. Why should I now vote for the next person?
But I think we gotta understand it takes time.
But it's not. I think it's not. It's not. It's also not just that. The fundamental problem is that a lot of times we're okay and we normalize this idea that once you vote for someone, that's it. They go away into a space and they either do something or they don't do something, right? When instead there should be no break between when the campaign kind of like how someone acts on the campaign trail should be the same way that they act when they're in there, right? They should be out in the community. They should be plugged in. They should be.
We're in a relationship now.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how I feel like you cheating on me.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
all
real.
the way
I
through
like
the
that.
election.
Oh, okay.
I like that.
And beyond. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's why I feel.
Now another question, right? Damn, I got mad questions, right? Because I'm listening to what you were saying, right? And when you got on the train and people were kind of like iffy to be around you, did that ever happen before Corona, or was that just after Corona?
I ride the train before the virus, when City Hall was open constantly, I was on the train every single day. And so, sometimes you feel this or that way with like a random person here or there, but it was like a shift immediately of every time I would get on the train, once Corona was being talked about, people were like,
that's what it's like to be a Black man.
Yeah, exactly.
Because when I walk down the street, people will cross the street, or when I get on the train, people will move right over. They're staring at you, but that's why
That's our life.
Yeah, but that's how we're relatable. You know what I mean? So I feel like the Black community, the Spanish community, Asian community are all the same because we all go through the same shit, just in different ways. But nobody speaks about it.
I kind of feel like it's like I don't want to say the term, but flavor of the week. So legit, like what I feel like just as a Black man, the kind of what we go through like every day, I feel like each group kind of gets it at a certain time because something happened. 9/11, a lot of the Muslim population got that. Coronavirus, the Asian population got that. So, but I also feel like a lot of times when it comes to city officials and stuff like that, nothing gets done because everybody starts focusing on the flavor of the week. So methadone been a problem forever, but then coronavirus. So now that became this. Then George Floyd. So I don't hear them going back to talk about, methadone. I don't hear them going back talking about gun violence. I don't hear them going back talking about let me just shift my focus now because I see them on TV every day with a press conference about coronavirus. But I'm like, what about the problems because coronavirus is there, but it's covering another issue. So where's the other problem that we're supposed to be addressing,
Yeah. That's why I go back to so much. Okay. I'm like all these things that were in my head too. So going back to this about what the Asian community went through, being the experience of what Black Americans and Black Bostonians go through all the time. That's the conversation I've been trying to have with my community of this is why it matters if we show up when we're talking about Black Lives Matters and a movement for racial justice and thinking about businesses and no more of this. Okay, well, we need this and they're going to get that and they're going to get that. But how are we all going through the same thing in some ways, but that we need to be there then when other communities are going through.
I want to switch it now.
All right.
Yeah, let's talk about.
She's on a time schedule.
Oh, you about to leave?
She gotta go.
You about to
That's
leave?
what I'm being told.
All right, let me ask one. Let me ask one question. What type of music do you like?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Gotta get that in.
Feel
there.
me?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so I am someone who grew up not being allowed to listen to most things, right? Like my parents, super shieldy of everything. So I have listened to, I could name any classical song, but going back, whatever, right?
Okay.
I play piano. I've always played piano. I love jazz.
That's Asian shit. All right. Okay.
I played violin for a while. So I think I love everything. I'll listen to music. It's like my parents met because they were both really involved in music. And so it's always been a huge part of my household, my family, like whatever culture, whatever
So
language.
You take in everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
That's good.
Except I just don't do heavy metal. It's too.
So-
Don't blame you.
Yeah.
All right,
I don't blame you.
so when you're in your car, you're heading home from work or you're heading home from wherever, groceries or whatever, what you playing?
So if it's just like I need to decompress, I will turn on the classical station. Just be like, I'm going to zone out. Because here's the other thing. And I don't know if it's because English isn't my first language. I actually have.
What are you exactly before you move on?
So my parents immigrated from Taiwan.
Okay.
And my grandparents had immigrated from mainland China to Taiwan in the middle of civil war there. So sometimes I say Chinese, sometimes I say Taiwanese, but it's kind of that situation. So my parents didn't speak English when I was born. Mandarin, Chinese is the language that I was born with. And so it's like sometimes really hard for me to understand lyrics. It's like a weird quirk. So I always have to look it up and this and that. But I'll listen to everything. I love music. I love playing piano. And there's so many amazing local artists also.
Yeah.
A huge scene in Boston that we need to be supporting more. And
Jessica, you better put her on. All right. Got you. All right, guys. You want to let everybody know where they can reach you and everything like that before we move on?
You can check out our website at michelleforboston.com or follow me on Twitter and Instagram at WooTrain. And then on Facebook at Michelle for Boston also.
I just want to get her to do woo.
All right, y'all. We'll be right back.
Lit.